Okay, now may I request our Chief Guest, Mr. Nitin Paranjpe, CEO, MD, Hindustan, Unilever Limited, and EVP South Asia, to deliver the Convocation address.
President and Director, Professor Nagesh Rao, members of the Governing Council, the faculty, to all the students who are here, the parents, and above all else to Madhukar, my friend, who gave me such a generous introduction. I wish some of what he said was true. It helps having a friend introduce you. That's what I've realized. Let me say how delighted I am to be here today on what is clearly a very, very special day for the 161 of you who are here, and to your parents and family, many of whom I can see who are here looking forward to this day. And I'm sure you are looking forward to this day as you get ready to step out into the real world, waiting to explore and realize the many dreams that you might have had even as you got into this institute 2 years ago. And as I think about just the mood and the sense that I got, I'm beginning to feel that it is unlikely that any of you are going to be in a state of mind wanting to listen to what someone like me who has to say at this moment, because I have been there. I've been there many, many years ago, but I have been there. And if I am right, many of you are just waiting for this occasion to get over so that you can be out with your friends and enjoy this. You must be wondering that you spent the last 2 years listening to people telling you things, and the last thing you want, now that you've got your convocation degree in your hand or diploma in your hand, you don't want someone else coming and preaching at you on this wonderful occasion. So I'm acutely conscious of that. I'm acutely conscious also of the fact that any presumptuous notion that I might have, that in a 15 or 20 minute period that I could say something which could, let alone change your lives, even remotely touch you, is a very risky notion indeed. And I say that with experience. As I look back in my times when I was 2 years in the institute, and I think back at the many people who had come across and spoken to me, I struggle to remember their names, let alone what they said. So it is quite likely that I will suffer the same fate. But I am here, as they say, and I'm a die-hard optimist, and so even at this stage, I have this little feeling that maybe I'd like to say some things to you on this very important day of yours as you're getting ready to move into the real world of business. A world which I think can be best characterized by one word which is change. Not change, maybe two words, rapid change. That's the world which we find ourselves in. And the reasons for this change are many, and this generation knows it better than I ever will, or I ever will be able to relate to. And it has a lot to do with the relentless pace at which technology has spread and the internet and what it has done. And what it has done, not just in terms of how we think and use of it, but what it has done to empower people by democratizing information in the manner in which it never has. It has had the most profound impact on society at large. How else can one imagine that a simple act, not a simple act, a serious act, of a vegetable and fruit vendor in Tunisia could have resulted in a movement across the Arab world which led to regimes which had been run by dictators for over decades fall apart, crumble in a period of weeks? How else can we imagine, and what could have led to a situation where the others who survived had started taking heed to the voice of the people out there, people whom they had crushed for years and decades in the past? That's the power of what's happening. That's the power of people. That's the power of information. And that's the empowering value of what this technology is doing. Don't ever let's underestimate what that can mean. And that's having a very, very profound change on the world at large. But there are other things that are changing as well. The world and the center of economic activity is shifting from the west to the east. The nucleus of growth is shifting here. And that must augur well for people in this part of the world. That must augur well for people in India and other developing countries in Asia. Because it is growth that is likely to help millions of people who've been living under poverty, giving them a chance to escape that and enjoy possibly a slightly better quality of life over the next many years. That's the exciting part. And that's why so many people out here are so excited about the prospects going forward, notwithstanding what we've done to ourselves really over the last year or two with growth rates having come down. But don't get overly concerned by what happens in the short to medium terms. The long-term trends are pretty clear. We will see growth and we will see progress, and the center of economic activity will decisively shift, and it already has, to this part of the world. But growth, for all its wonderful things, will also bring about some strains, some pressures in the manner in which resources are getting consumed. Now we all recognize it but don't really pay too much heed to it. The reality is that there are many people who have carried out studies to establish that as this part of the world grows, if people in this part of the world start consuming resources like and living like the average European, we would need the resources of 3 planets. If we started living like an average North American, we would need today the resources of 5 planets, but we have only 1. Now all of us intellectually understand this issue, but the truth is that collectively we have failed to do anything about it. We have failed to do anything, and that is the harsh reality which we have to face up to. And it's not just businesses that I'm talking about, it is sovereign nations which have been guilty of just the rhetoric that the environment is important, but little action to back this rhetoric which we hear all the time. This can't continue. Because, like I said, there is only one world. And the only reason they have not done anything is because everyone recognizes that acting in a situation like this will involve, for sure, some short-term pain and angst, which is very specific and personal. For what they see is a generalized benefit that might come, which is a little nebulous sometime in the distant future. And therefore, most people end up trading the present and are willing to mortgage the future, so to say, and that's really the world which we find ourselves in. The third thing that I'd like you to be aware of as you step out into this world, step out in this world of business, is a little unfortunate. It's a little unfortunate because the time that you find yourself in is a time when trust and confidence in business's ability to act in the larger interest of society is at an all-time low. Survey after survey across the world indicates the growing disillusionment of the public at large and the society at large about how business conducts itself. There are more and more people who are asking and saying that business is increasingly becoming self-serving and acting in a manner which is at conflict with the larger interests of society. That's the world which we find ourselves in. There was a study carried out which was called the Edelman Trust Barometer, and it showed that less than 1 in 5, less than 20% of the people trusted business to act in a manner which was responsible when dealing with the real issues of the world. That's the world that we find ourselves in. Movements like Occupy Wall Street, which you're seeing, which have started in the heart of the capitalist world, what do they say? They're simply saying that people are getting fed up, and in this empowered consumer and empowered people that we find are unwilling to sit back and allow this to happen. And if we think this movement started in this place, went into a few cities, a few such processions, and will die a natural death like many others have done, then I think that is precisely the wrong attitude, and precisely maybe the attitude which will mean that movements like this will gather from strength to strength and will force business to act. And I think wise people must just realize that this is the writing on the wall and do something about it and not have it forced on you. That's the reality that is there. Now this picture of business that I described to you, it's really ironic. I call it ironic because over the last many hundred years, it is business that has contributed more to the creation of jobs, the improvement of prosperity, livelihoods, quality of life than anything else. And they've done that through innovation and through enterprise. That's what business has done. And the same business, the same model of capitalism which has served us so well for so many years is now being questioned as whether it serves us and is relevant in the manner in which it's deployed today. That's the truth. Now you have to ask yourself as young leaders going out into this world, as to why have we got here? What has led to this outcome? And the only way I can think of explaining this to myself is to try and think of how business actually started, the genesis of any business activity. And the genesis of any business activity started off in a society where somebody saw a need. And somebody saw that he could carry out an activity to fulfill that need. And in doing so, had a surplus, made some profit. That's how business started. It started to serve some needs and created a surplus and a profit along the way. The purpose of business now is not to make profit. Unfortunately, over a period of time, we've started getting confused about what the purpose was and what the outcome of business is. The money which we make in business is simply the outcome of serving the needs of society well. That's what that money is. And that is why Drucker at one point in time said so beautifully when he described profit as nothing other than the cost of being in business tomorrow. You need to create that surplus in order for that business to be sustainable, to be relevant, to innovate, and to continue serving the changing needs of consumers and people in society over a period of time. That's why that profit is required, and that's the role of this. Unfortunately, business schools have been guilty of almost creating this mantra of creating shareholder value being the purpose of business. It is not the purpose of business. And unfortunately, as the credo changed from maximizing societal wealth to maximizing shareholder wealth, the trust quotient dropped. It had to. What else would happen? And if business, therefore, as we know it, and the business world that you are going to go out and join has to survive and thrive going forward, we have no choice. We have no choice but to re-establish that contract with society which we had at a point in time, which is when business focused on the purpose of business and saw making money as an outcome of doing that job. Now, for many people out here, you might wonder, why am I talking about all of this? I'm talking about all of this because it is our belief that if we don't do so, business will not survive. It is in our self-enlightened interest to recognize this and start taking steps at this stage. And it is for this reason that I feel that we have no choice but to craft, to create a new model of business, a new model of growth, a new model which recognizes these realities, a new model which does not say that we don't need to grow, because grow we must. We must grow because there are millions of people in markets like us who are waiting. They think that the time has come now when they are likely to emerge from the poverty that they found themselves in and see the quality of life improving. Just because some people in some parts of the world may have used the resources indiscriminately, these people are not going to throttle their aspirations at this stage, because this is when that time has come. And therefore grow we must. But what it means is that we will have to find models of growth which will find a way to decouple growth from the use of resources. That's what we will need to do. We will have to deftly find models which will enable us to manage the rising demand, the depleting resources, and an empowered set of people who are going to demand greater accountability from business in the manner in which they operate. Basically, we will need business models, like I said, which decouple us from resource use and recouple us with societal good. That's the new business model that we have no choice but to try and develop. And because this is our point of view, I'm going to share with you a little bit. This is not about telling you about what Unilever is doing and what Hindustan Unilever is doing. I talk about it only because it's a company I can talk about with some authenticity and understanding and knowledge. That's the reason I take this as an example. Because as a company we have this point of view of the future, we have recently articulated what we call the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan. A sustainable living plan which at its heart is about developing new business models which will enable us to grow while halving the environmental footprint and improving our social impact. That's what we are trying to do. And we've gone out into the public and made 3 bold commitments: that we will grow and halve our environmental footprint, like I said, that we will touch the lives of 1 billion consumers across the world, 1 billion consumers, and demonstrably change their behavior towards health and hygiene, and thereby have a positive impact on society. And the third goal that we've publicly articulated is that we will find a way to improve livelihoods by doing something which will impact the largest number of people on farms, which is ensure that 100% of what we procure will come from farms and farmlands which have been externally certified to follow practices which are truly sustainable. That's really what we've now gone out and committed. And this is not just an internal goal. We've gone and talked to the investors and analysts and told them that you must hold us accountable for delivering business in this manner. Now you can imagine when something like this was first announced, what was the reaction within the organization. First there was euphoria, excitement, this feeling that, hey, we are not just in it for the money, there's a purpose. This company is trying to do something really special. That was the initial reaction. But it was immediately followed by a degree of concern and nervousness. My God, what have we gone and got ourselves into? This world is a treacherous place, marketplace is treacherous, competition is severe. We didn't need an additional set of constraints to compete out there, and we've now locked ourselves in all of this. Will it not be a constraint? Will it not hinder us? How will we remain competitive? These were the thoughts which went on in everyone's minds. But the damage had been done, so to say. We had gone out and already committed said what we wanted to say, that this is how we are going to deliver. And therefore, stepping back was not an option. And because stepping back was not an option, it led to something else. It led to the organization say, now that we've gone and done this, let me find ways. Let us look for ways by which it is possible to do well for the business while doing good to society. And at the end of 2 years, we are 2 years into this journey, I can tell you, we are now absolutely convinced that it is possible. It is possible to find business models which do both. It is not easy. We have a few examples, we don't have all. But the few examples tell us that it can be done. And because we have a point of view that society sometime in the future, I don't know when, I don't know whether it's in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the causes will be, but I do know that the time will come soon when society will not allow anyone, any business to follow any strategy which is in its interest but not in the societal good. It will simply not happen. And if this is our point of view, we have no choice. It is an imperative that we start working hard to building skills, building capabilities, bringing in a set of people who believe in this and are willing to commit to finding options and outcomes which are truly win-win in the broadest sense of the term. That's the journey which we are on. And really, from my perspective, that's the most exciting journey. And what I really want to leave behind as a thought to all of you is for you to reflect. You don't have to believe me because I say so, but I want to leave you with some thoughts about the world as I see it. And I want you to apply your independent mind and ask yourself whether it is possible for us to continue the way we are doing and carrying out business now. And if not, then I'd like you to ask yourself the question, what are you going to do about it? What is your role in all of this? It is not okay as future leaders in this world to acknowledge it, understand it, intellectually be able to talk about it and yet not do anything about it. That's simply not okay. And therefore, as you get ready to move out in the real world, I want to ask you a few questions. Do you have the courage? Do you have the conviction? Do you have the belief that you want to find a new model which will be good for you and good for society? That is the only sustainable way of doing business. Do you have that belief? Do you have the courage? I also want to ask you, do you have the resilience? Because as you move down a path which has not been trodden before, as you create new paths, it's not going to be easy. There will be hurdles along the way, and it requires real deep conviction, belief, and an incredible amount of resilience to stay the course and make a difference. And therefore today, in many ways, you have a choice to make. You have a choice to make in terms of doing what everyone's done before, which is the oft-trodden, easier path. Or you have another choice to make, which comes from your deep belief and desire to go down the path which people haven't gone down, to pioneer, to create a new business model, a new way of doing things, which I have no doubt is tougher. But it is the tougher right than the easier wrong. And really, as leaders, I'd like to ask yourself the question, what is the choice that you're wanting to make today? And on this day, I have just one hope for you. One hope for you as you go about making this decision. I hope you have the courage to do the right things. That's not just my hope for you, that's my hope for myself. It's my hope for society. Because if this generation does not have the courage to do the right things when faced with this, then I I dare say that we have a very bleak future. But like I started right in the beginning, I'm an eternal optimist. I have deep belief and confidence in the generation which is coming up. I know you will make the right choice. I know you will make a difference. And it is when you make a difference, I'm absolutely convinced that we will not just restore the trust and confidence which has been lost in business, that we will do, but we will bring business back to being the force for good, which we know it has been in the past and we know it can be in the future. That's all that I wish for all of you. My best wishes to one and all on this wonderful day as you step out into this world, and may you make the right choice. Thank you all. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Mr. Nitin Paranjpe, for your inspirational insights and lessons. But most importantly, we can all feel the passion that you bring to everything that you said, where we create a world, as one of my students here taught me, the importance of focusing on profit, planet, and people simultaneously. Thank you so much for doing that.